The giant screens aboard the Council's grand chamber flickered as the unexpected message from Earth appeared. Elder Tulo, the oldest member of the 12 Species Council, blinked his 4 eyes rapidly in surprise. For over 300 years, the Council had sent carefully crafted invitations toward the small blue planet in what humans called the solar system. They had watched, waited, and wondered if their messages were even being received. "Play it again," Tulo commanded, his tentacles rippling with excitement. The quantum transmission repeated, "We received your messages. We were never ignoring you. We were preparing." The council chamber erupted in chatter. Some representatives chittered nervously, others hummed in delight. The humans had finally responded, but not with the expected awe or gratitude. Instead, their message carried an unsettling confidence. What could they possibly be preparing for? Asked Representative Moole, her crystalline form shimmering with concern. "We offered friendship, not challenge." Tulo raised a tentacle for silence. "We have observed them for centuries. They are unlike us. They fight among themselves first, then unite. They build weapons before bridges." He paused, considering. "And yet, they create beauty amid their chaos. They are fascinating." Far away on Earth, Commander Jun-Ho Park stood before the United Earth Council in Seoul. At 42, he was younger than most expected for humanity's first ambassador, but his background made him ideal. With a diplomatic career spanning 3 continents and military experience during the resource wars, Jun-Ho understood both conflict and peace. "The data package we've prepared includes our complete history," Jun-Ho explained to the room of officials, "including our wars." President Lena Rivera frowned. "Is that wise? Revealing our violent past?" Jun-Ho looked around at the gathered leaders. "We can't hide who we are. Their observers have likely seen enough to know we're not like them. But they need to understand that our challenges shaped us. Our competitions drove our innovations. Our conflicts eventually taught us unity." He touched the screen before him, bringing up images of Earth's achievements. "We've cured diseases, reversed climate damage, and created sustainable fusion in the last century alone. Our progress outpaces any species they've encountered, according to the data they've shared. And that's precisely what worries me," said General Kim, the oldest person in the room. "They'll fear us." "Yes," Jun-Ho agreed. "They might. But fear can become respect, given time and understanding." Back in the council chamber, the analysis of Earth's response continued. The council's xenobiologists and cultural experts have been working nonstop since the message arrived. "Their message is telling," explained Zira, the council's lead anthropologist. "Most emerging species respond with excitement or religious awe. The humans instead tell us they've been preparing. Their history shows a pattern. They prepare for the worst while hoping for the best." Elder Tulo floated closer to the holographic display of Earth. "What puzzles me is why they waited so long to respond. Our scans show they've had the capability to detect our signals for at least a century." "That's what concerns us," Zira replied. "They wanted to respond from a position of strength, not vulnerability. They've been developing quantum communication, warp technology, and defensive systems that match or exceed some of our own, all while remaining silent." On Earth, Jun-Ho stood alone on the observation deck of the Korean Space Center, watching as engineers prepared the Starship Harmony for its historic journey. The sleek vessel represented humanity's greatest achievement, built not by one nation, but by a united Earth that had learned the hard way that cooperation was necessary for survival. His comm unit buzzed. "Commander Park, we've received another transmission from the Council. They're sending coordinates for the first meeting." Jun-Ho felt the weight of responsibility settle deeper on his shoulders. His team had been selected carefully: scientists, diplomats, and yes, military personnel. The Council might find their presence alarming, but humanity wasn't naive. The universe was vast and likely held dangers the peaceful Council species had never faced. "Confirm receipt and inform the crew." "We launch in 3 days," he replied. That night, Junho visited his grandfather's small house outside Seoul. The old man, now nearing 90, had lived through the resource wars and helped rebuild afterward. "Are you afraid?" his grandfather asked as they sat drinking tea under the persimmon tree. "I would be foolish not to be," Junho admitted. "We're meeting beings who evolved differently from us. Their societies developed through cooperation rather than competition." The old man nodded. "They might see us as barbarians, or as children who grew up too quickly," Junho added. "Either way, they'll be cautious." "As should you be," his grandfather warned. "Remember the old saying, the cornered rat will bite the cat." "We're hardly cornered, grandfather." "No," the old man agreed. "But neither are we as powerful as this council. Be humble enough to learn, but proud enough to stand firm." The day of departure arrived with global celebrations. The Harmony crew of 30 represented Earth's diversity, the best minds from every continent. Dr. Min Ji-song, the quantum physics expert who had decoded the council's communication method, stood beside Junho as they prepared to board. "Do you think they'll accept us?" she asked quietly. Junho considered the question. "Eventually. But first, they'll need to understand us." As the Harmony lifted from Earth, billions watched. The ship carried not just people but humanity's hopes and fears. Junho felt both as the blue planet shrank behind them. They were heading toward beings who had achieved peace across multiple star systems, while humans had only recently stopped fighting among themselves. In his quarters, Junho reviewed the Council's latest message once more. Behind the diplomatic language, he sensed their unease. They had expected a young species grateful for recognition. Instead, they found humans resilient, resourceful, and ready. "We were preparing," he repeated softly to himself. "Not for war, though the Council might fear this. Humanity had been preparing to meet the universe on equal terms, to offer strength alongside friendship." The journey would take 3 weeks using Earth's newly developed warp technology. 3 weeks to plan how to introduce a species that had evolved through struggle to a community that knew mainly peace. Junho closed his eyes, thinking of his grandfather's words. The path ahead would require wisdom as much as courage. Humanity was finally stepping onto the galactic stage, not as supplicants, but as partners. Whether the Council was ready for them remained to be seen. The Harmony emerged from warp with a soft flash that lit up the sensors across Centauri Station. Council technicians scrambled to analyze the human vessel's arrival, shocked by the absence of the expected radiation signature and spatial distortion that accompanied all known forms of faster-than-light travel. "Impossible," muttered Chief Scientist Vex as he studied the readings. "They're using gravity manipulation to fold space, not punch through it." He turned to high-speaker Neri, his 6-fingered hands trembling slightly. "We theorized this method centuries ago, but abandoned it as too energy-intensive." Neri, her silvery skin reflecting the soft blue lights of the command center, watched the human ship approach. Unlike the bulbous designs favored by most Council races, the Harmony was sleek and angular, with solar panels that resembled wings. "How long have they had this technology?" she asked quietly. "Based on their transmissions, less than 30 years, Vex replied. "They've compressed technological evolution that took us millennia into mere decades." On board the Harmony, Commander Junho Park straightened his dark blue uniform and addressed his team one final time before docking. "Remember, we are Earth's first impression," he said calmly. "They've been watching us for centuries, but this is our first chance to speak directly. We are not here to intimidate, but neither will we appear weak." Dr. Hae-Yun Kim, the ship's lead scientist, nodded. At 36, she had already revolutionized human understanding of quantum biology, making her the perfect bridge between human and alien science. "The station's atmosphere contains trace elements toxic to most Council species," she noted, reviewing her tablet. "But nothing our systems can't filter for us. We won't need suits." The decision to enter the station without protective gear was deliberate. Humanity's remarkable adaptability. The result of evolving on a planet with wildly varying climates and conditions was one of their greatest advantages. As the airlock cycled open, Jun-Ho led the 10-person delegation into Centauri Station. The circular chamber was designed to accommodate multiple species, with gravity set to a standard that most found comfortable. To the humans, it felt like walking at high elevation, not unpleasant, just different. The council welcoming party waited in a semicircle. 6 different species stood together, their physical forms wildly varied. Nari stepped forward, her movements fluid despite the obvious heaviness of her ceremonial robes. "Welcome to Centauri Station, representatives of Earth," she said, her translator converting her musical language to clear English. "We have awaited this day for generations." Jun-Ho bowed slightly. "High Speaker Nari, we bring greetings from a united Earth. We thank you for your patience during our preparation period." A ripple of translator-delayed murmurs spread through the council delegation. Jun-Ho noticed their reactions to the humans' appearance, the fascination, the surprise at their lack of protective gear, and in some cases, what looked like apprehension. "You find our environment suitable?" asked a reptilian council member, scales shifting color in what He-Yun recognized as a sign of disbelief. "Quite comfortable," He-Yun replied with a smile. "Humans evolved in diverse conditions. We adapt quickly." "So we have observed," Nari said carefully. "Please, join us in the grand hall for the formal reception." As they walked through the station's sweeping corridors, Jun-Ho noted the elegant efficiency of council design. Everything served multiple purposes, accommodating beings with different needs. Soft lights adapted to various visual sensitivities, and subtle changes in floor texture helped guide species with different sensory capabilities. In the Grand Hall, representatives from all 12 council species awaited them. Some floated in suspension fields, others stood on raised platforms, but all focused intently on the human delegation. "May I present Commander Jun-Ho Park, Earth's appointed ambassador," Nari announced to the assembly. Jun-Ho stepped onto the central platform, feeling hundreds of alien eyes upon him. The data package he would present had been debated extensively back on Earth. Some had wanted to sanitize human history, to hide the wars and atrocities. Jun-Ho had argued successfully against this approach. "Honored Council," he began, his voice steady. "For centuries, you have watched our development from afar. Today, we stand before you as equals, offering friendship and cooperation." He activated the holographic display, showing Earth in all its blue beauty. "We bring our complete history, our achievements, and our failures. We have fought wars among ourselves. We have damaged our planet, and then healed it. We have divided by nation, race, and belief, only to ultimately unite." The display showed images of Earth's past conflicts, then its modern cities powered by fusion energy, its restored oceans, its space colonies. "We do not hide our struggles because they made us who we are today," Jun-Ho continued. "Through competition, we found innovation. Through conflict, we discovered the true value of peace." The council members watched silently. Some communicated among themselves through subtle gestures or technological means. Jun-Ho could feel the tension in the room, not hostility, but profound uncertainty. After the formal presentation came the diplomatic reception. Council members approached the humans cautiously, asking questions that revealed their deep curiosity, but also their concerns. "Your species achieved nuclear fusion just 2 centuries after discovering electricity," noted a crystalline being. "Such rapid development is unprecedented." He-Yun engaged with the scientific contingent, explaining human breakthroughs while carefully gauging their reactions. She noticed how they seemed simultaneously impressed and unsettled by humanity's scientific methods. "You test theories through trial and error?" asked one council scientist, clearly disturbed. "Even with significant failure risks. Sometimes the fastest path to success requires accepting the possibility of failure," He-Yun explained. "It's fundamental to our scientific approach." As the reception continued, High Speaker Neri approached Junho privately, guiding him to a quiet alcove overlooking the stars. "Your presentation was most illuminating, Commander," she said. "I must speak frankly. Some on the Council are deeply concerned." "About our history of conflict?" Junho asked. "Not exactly," Neri replied. "What concerns us is your rate of development. What took other species thousands of years to achieve, humans have accomplished in mere centuries. Your adaptability, your drive to overcome limitations, these qualities seem almost predatory," Junho suggested. Neri's expression changed subtly. "An apt term. You understand our concern." "We developed quickly because we had to," Junho explained. "Our competition drove our innovation. Our challenges forced us to adapt or perish. And that is precisely what concerns us," Neri said softly. "Not what humanity has done, but what you might become." Junho looked out at the stars, understanding at last the true nature of the Council's unease. They didn't fear humans for their past wars or current capabilities. They feared humanity's potential, a species that evolved through struggle now entering a peaceful galactic community, bringing with them qualities the Council species had either never developed or had evolved beyond. "We come in peace, High Speaker," he said finally. "But we come as we are, humans, shaped by our history, ready to learn from yours." Neri nodded slowly. "The path ahead will not be simple, Commander Park, but it begins today." As Junho rejoined his team, he carried this new understanding. The Council didn't fear what humans had been. They feared what humans might become. The challenge before him was to show them that humanity's unique evolution could strengthen the galactic community rather than threaten it. It would not be an easy task. The Earth Embassy on Lumina, the Council homeworld, stood out among the flowing organic structures that characterized the planet's architecture. While Council buildings curved and twisted like living things, the human embassy featured clean lines and practical corners, a visual reminder of humanity's different approach to the universe. Inside, Junho reviewed the latest Council restrictions with his team. 6 months had passed since first contact, and Earth now held probationary membership status, an unprecedented category created specifically for humans. "They've denied our request to establish research outposts in the Orient sector," reported Seojun, Junho's diplomatic aide. "And they've added quantum tunneling to the list of restricted technologies." Junho sighed. "Add it to the others. No weapons beyond our embassy security force. No expansion beyond Sol system without approval. No sharing of fusion containment methods." He looked around at his frustrated team. "Remember, we expected this. They fear our development speed. But how can we prove our value if they restrict everything we do?" asked Dr. He-yun, who had remained on Lumina as chief science liaison. "By respecting their rules while finding ways to help within them," Junho replied, though his patience was wearing thin. He understood the Council's caution. Humans had compressed millennia of development into centuries, but their restrictions were becoming excessive. Council observers had been assigned to all human operations. The sleek monitoring vessels shadowed Earth ships, their crews documenting everything. Humans called them babysitters, though never to their faces. Meanwhile, Captain Ji-woo Lee commanded the exploration vessel Discovery at the edge of Council space. A veteran of Earth's Space Force, Ji-woo had been selected for her calm demeanor and diplomatic skills. Today, however, those skills were being tested. "Captain, we're receiving an automated distress signal," reported her communications officer. "It's coming from Helios Colony in the restricted Cygnus sector." Ji-woo frowned. Analysis. Solar flare activity from their binary star system. Massive radiation surge approaching the colony. Their shields won't hold. Ji-woo studied the data. Helios Colony housed nearly 3,000 Council citizens, mostly researchers and their families. The radiation would reach lethal levels within hours. "Council protocols state we should report this and await instructions," her first officer reminded her. Ji-woo calculated the distances involved. The nearest Council defense fleet is 2 days away. The colony has 4 hours. She straightened in her chair. Helm, set course for Helios colony. Maximum speed. Captain, we're prohibited from entering that sector, the first officer said carefully. I'm aware of the restrictions, Commander. Jiwoo's voice was calm but firm. Log my decision. This is my responsibility alone. The Discovery surged toward the colony, followed reluctantly by their Council observer vessel. Jiwoo opened a channel to the observer. We've detected a life-threatening emergency at Helios colony. We're moving to assist. The Council observer, a tall, willowy being named Tren, appeared on screen. Captain Lee, I must formally remind you that entering restricted space violates your probationary status. Please await official Council response. With respect, there isn't time. Jiwoo ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Prepare the radiation shield projectors. We'll need to extend coverage over the entire colony. Earth's shield technology, developed during the solar radiation crisis of 2098, exceeded Council capabilities in this specific area. The Discovery could generate a protective bubble large enough to cover the colony until evacuation ships arrived. When they reached Helios, panic had already set in. The colony's own shields were failing, and residents were crowding into inadequate shelter areas. The Discovery positioned itself in orbit and deployed its shield array. Channel to Colony Administration, Jiwoo ordered. A frightened Council administrator appeared on screen. Human vessel, what are you doing in restricted space? Saving your people, Jiwoo replied simply. Our shields can protect you, but we need you to follow our instructions precisely. For the next 20 hours, the Discovery maintained its shield over the colony while helping coordinate evacuation. When the Council relief fleet finally arrived, they found the situation well in hand, and a clear violation of human restrictions. On Lumina, Junho was summoned to an emergency Council session. High Speaker Neri looked troubled as the chamber filled with representatives. Ambassador Park, Captain Lee has violated multiple restrictions, Neri began. She entered prohibited space, deployed restricted technology, and interfered in Council affairs without authorization. She saved 3,000 lives, Junho countered. Lives that would have been lost had she followed protocol. Elder Tulo, who had become something of an advocate for humans, raised a tentacle. The ambassador speaks truth. Our own analysis confirms the colony would have suffered catastrophic radiation exposure before our ships arrived. The issue is not the outcome, but the process, insisted Representative Moole. Humans cannot simply ignore rules they find inconvenient. Junho stepped forward. With respect, Representative, humans prioritize life over process. This is fundamental to who we are. Explain, Nari requested, her expression unreadable. Junho chose his words carefully. Throughout our history, our greatest heroes have been those who broke rules to save others. We developed in a harsh environment where survival often required immediate action. When lives are at stake, we act first and accept consequences later. The Council chamber hummed with quiet discussion. Junho continued. Captain Lee knew she was violating restrictions. She logged her decision and accepted full responsibility. She did not ask her crew to share the burden of that choice. And now you ask us to ignore this violation? Asked Representative Zev, his crystalline form shimmering with agitation. I ask you to understand it, Junho replied, and perhaps to consider that different evolutionary paths create different value systems. Yours prizes caution and consensus. Ours values decisive action in emergencies. After hours of debate, the Council reached a decision. Captain Lee would be formally reprimanded, but allowed to retain her command. More significantly, the Council agreed to review its restriction policies and create emergency protocols that would allow human intervention in life-threatening situations. Later, in a private meeting chamber, Neri spoke candidly with Junho. Your Captain Lee has created quite the diplomatic challenge, she said. But also an opportunity, Junho suggested. The Council has now seen firsthand what humans can offer. Nari's expression softened slightly. Indeed, several representatives have noted that your shield technology saved many lives. There is talk of a technology exchange program. Limited, of course. Progress, Junho said with a small smile. But Ambassador, Nari cautioned, this pattern concerns many of us. Humans seem to believe they know better than established systems. This trait makes you valuable in crisis, but unpredictable as partners. Junho considered this. High Speaker, humanity spent most of its history divided. We learned the hard way that systems and rules are necessary. But we also learned that rigid adherence to protocol can cost lives. Finding the balance is our ongoing challenge. A challenge the Council now shares, Nari observed. Your probationary period continues, Ambassador, but perhaps with slightly fewer restrictions. As Junho left the Council chamber, he felt a mixture of pride and concern. Captain Lee's actions had demonstrated humanity's value, but also reinforced the Council's fears. Humans would act decisively when necessary, regardless of rules. This trait had served humanity well on Earth, but in the complex web of galactic politics, it made them unpredictable. And the Council, Junho had learned, valued predictability above almost all else. The emergency alarm blared through the Council chambers for the first time in 600 years. Representatives rushed to their seats as holographic displays showed a Council colony world under attack. Dark ships of unknown design fired upon settlements, methodically destroying defense installations before landing ground forces. We've lost contact with New Haven Colony, reported the defense coordinator, her usually calm voice tight with stress. All communication relays have been destroyed. High Speaker Neri addressed the stunned Council. The attackers match ancient records of the Void Hegemony, a species from the galactic core. Their civilization was believed dormant for millennia. Dormant, not extinct, corrected Elder Tulo grimly. They appear to have awakened, and hungry for expansion. Junho watched the footage with a growing sense of dread. The attack pattern was systematic and ruthless. Military targets first, then communication, then resource centers. This was not random violence but calculated conquest. Within days, 3 more Council worlds fell to the hegemony. The Council's response proved woefully inadequate. Their peacekeeping fleet, designed for minor disputes and emergency response, lacked the weapons and tactics to repel determined invaders. They've refused all communication attempts, reported the diplomatic court leader. Our offers of resource sharing and territorial recognition have been ignored. Junho requested an urgent meeting with Nari. When admitted to her private chambers, he found the High Speaker reviewing casualty reports, her silver skin dulled with fatigue. High Speaker, the Council needs help, he said without preamble. Earth can provide military advisors with extensive experience in defensive and offensive strategy. Nari looked up sharply. The restrictions on human military presence in Council space are fundamental to your probationary status. And those restrictions may now cost countless lives, Junho countered. The hegemony isn't interested in negotiation. They want resources and territory, and they're willing to kill for them. Nari was silent for a long moment. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador? Allow me to bring Strategic Commander Ta-Wan Choi and a small team of military advisors to analyze the situation. No weapons, no troops, just expertise. After intense debate, the Council approved Junho's request on an emergency basis. 3 days later, Commander Choi arrived at Council headquarters with 5 specialists in various aspects of warfare, a concept so foreign to the Council that they had no direct translation for it in their languages. Taiwan was a compact, serious man who had commanded Earth's United Defense Force during the Resource Wars. He spent the first day reviewing all available data on hegemony attacks, working silently while Council observers watched nervously. They're following classic conquest methodology, he finally announced to the waiting Council. Their attacks show 3 clear phases: neutralize defenses, sever communications, secure resources. They aren't interested in destruction for its own sake. They want your worlds intact. This confirms our analysis, said the Council's defense coordinator. Does it? Taiwan brought up tactical displays of the recent attacks. Then why are your defense forces still deploying in standard protective formations? The hegemony specifically targets your command ships first. You're giving them easy victories. The Council representatives shifted uncomfortably. Their defensive doctrine hadn't changed significantly in hundreds of years. There had been no need in their peaceful expansion. Over the next week, Taiwan and his team worked around the clock, developing new defensive patterns for Council ships and training their commanders in basic tactical maneuvers. When the hegemony attacked the colony of Brightness Falls, the Council fleet used these new tactics and successfully repelled the initial assault. We've bought time, not victory, Taiwan warned the celebrating Council. The hegemony will adapt. They're testing our defenses, learning our capabilities. Then we will improve our defenses further, suggested Representative Moole. Create a containment perimeter around our core worlds. Taiwan exchanged glances with Junho. Containment is temporary at best. The hegemony will continue probing for weaknesses, gathering strength, and studying your technology. You need to take the initiative. You propose we attack them? Nari asked, her voice sharp with surprise. Precisely. Junho stepped forward. The Council has always expanded peacefully, but the hegemony understands only strength. A targeted offensive could disrupt their command structure and supply lines. The Council chamber erupted in debate. Many representatives were appalled at the suggestion of deliberate aggression, even in self-defense. Others, particularly those from worlds nearest the hegemony advance, were more receptive. This goes against our most fundamental principles, argued Representative Zev. We are guardians of peace, not instigators of violence. Peace requires those who will defend it, countered Elder Tulo. Perhaps this is why the universe sent us humans. They evolved differently than we did. The debate continued for 3 days while the hegemony pressed their advantage, taking 2 more outlying colonies. Finally, Junho requested permission to address the full Council again. Honored representatives, he began, his voice grave. Earth's history contains many dark chapters of conquest and war. We've learned painful lessons about aggression and its costs. But we've also learned that there are times when failing to act decisively costs more lives than taking action. He displayed a strategic projection showing hegemony expansion over the next year. At current rates, they will reach major population centers within 6 months. Millions will die or be enslaved. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador? Asked Nari. A targeted strike at their primary staging area, Taiwan explained, highlighting a distant system. Not to destroy them, but to disrupt their ability to coordinate attacks. To show them that conquest will be too costly to pursue. And who would execute this strike? Asked Representative Moole cautiously. Junho took a deep breath. Earth would provide the tactical expertise and command. The Council would provide the ships and crews. The chamber fell silent. What Junho proposed was unprecedented, placing Council forces under human military command, even temporarily. This would require suspending most restrictions on human authority in Council space, Nari said slowly. Yes, Junho agreed. It would be temporary, with clear objectives and limitations, but it must be decisive and unified. The Council debated through the night. Lines were drawn between those who saw the necessity of action and those who feared changing the peaceful nature of Council civilization forever. Some suggested abandoning outer colonies to preserve core worlds. Others proposed mass evacuation to uncharted regions. Finally, Nari called for a formal vote, the first on a military matter in Council history. The chamber was tense as representatives recorded their decisions. When the results appeared on the central display, Junho felt a mix of relief and apprehension. By the narrowest margin, the Council had approved his plan. Humans would be granted temporary military authority over a joint Earth Council defensive force. The restrictions that had defined Earth's probationary status would be lifted for the duration of the crisis. As the council session ended, Representative Zev approached Junho. "I voted against your proposal, Ambassador. I fear what we may become if we follow the human path of meeting violence with violence." "I understand your concern," Junho replied. "But sometimes preserving peace requires those willing to fight for it." "Perhaps," Zev conceded. "But after this is over, if we survive, what will the council have become?" It was a question Junho had asked himself repeatedly. The council had maintained peace for millennia through cooperation and dialogue. Now they were embracing conflict, led by a species that had evolved through competition and struggle. He hoped they were not trading one threat for another more insidious one, the threat of becoming what they fought against. As Junho left the council chamber, he knew that humanity's true test was just beginning. They had convinced the council to fight. Now they needed to show them how to win without losing themselves in the process. The war with the Void hegemony had raged for 3 months. From the central command center on Lumina, Junho watched tactical displays showing human and council ships engaging hegemony forces across 6 different star systems. The joint fleet, now under the command of Admiral Mijin Kang, had stopped the enemy's advance but at a heavy cost. "We've lost the Defiant and Sentinel," reported a communication officer. "The council vessels Harmony and Starlight are badly damaged but retreating successfully." Junho nodded grimly. Earth had committed 20 warships to the conflict. Vessels that had once defended Earth during the resource wars, now repurposed to protect alien worlds. 5 had already been destroyed. Council representatives watched the battle updates with a mixture of horror and fascination. Unlike humans, they had no cultural context for warfare on this scale. They struggled to comprehend the calculated risks, the acceptable losses, the brutal mathematics of combat. "How can your admiral order ships into positions where destruction is likely?" asked Representative Moole, watching as human vessels deliberately drew enemy fire to protect council ships. "Because sometimes saving many requires sacrificing few," Junho explained quietly. "It's a burden of command humans have carried throughout our history." That evening, Junho requested permission to address the full council. The galactic situation had worsened. Intelligence suggested the hegemony was planning a major assault on Lumina itself. The time had come for difficult truths. Standing before the assembled representatives of 12 species, Junho spoke without diplomatic filters. "The hegemony will reach Lumina within 2 weeks," he began bluntly. "When they come, we will face their full might. I need you to understand why humans are prepared for this moment in a way your civilization is not." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history, its wars, its struggles, its relentless competition that drove both destruction and creation. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation, ideology against ideology. We developed technologies to kill, then repurposed them to build. We competed ruthlessly, then learned to cooperate. He paused, letting the images speak. "You see this as barbaric. Perhaps it was. But it shaped us into what we are." The council chamber was silent as Junho continued. "You evolved through cooperation, creating a peaceful society that spans hundreds of worlds. This is your greatest achievement and your fatal weakness. You never needed to fight, so you never learned how." His voice softened. "But humans, we know war intimately. We know its costs and its necessities. We have been preparing for this moment without realizing it." "What moment is that, Ambassador?" asked Elder Tulo. "The moment when peace requires protection," Junho answered. "When diplomacy fails and survival depends on the willingness to fight. Humanity's purpose in joining the galactic community is not to disrupt your peace but to defend it." As Junho finished speaking, alarm systems blared. The hegemony had accelerated their timeline. Their main fleet had been detected approaching Lumina. They would arrive in 3 days, not 2 weeks. Admiral Mijin Kang arrived on Lumina, The next day, to coordinate the final defense, a veteran of Earth's space conflicts, Mei Jin had a reputation for brilliant but unorthodox tactics. She addressed the council bluntly. "The hegemony outnumbers us 3-1, she stated, showing the enemy fleet formation. "They expect us to form a defensive perimeter around Lumina. We won't do that." "You'll abandon the homeworld," gasped Representative Zev. "No," Mei Jin replied. "We'll meet them before they arrive. Human ships will engage their vanguard here." She pointed to a position well away from Lumina. "We'll make them commit their forces, then the Council fleet will emerge from hiding behind Lumina's moons to strike their flanks." The strategy was risky. Human ships would bear the brunt of the initial assault, likely suffering severe casualties. But if executed properly, it could break the hegemony's formation and leave them vulnerable. "Your ships will be sacrificed," Neri said quietly, understanding the implications. "Some will," Mei Jin acknowledged. "But this is what we trained for, what Earth prepared us for." The day of battle arrived. From the command center on Lumina, Junho and the Council watched as 17 Earth vessels moved to intercept the hegemony fleet. The human ships were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a coordination and adaptability that astonished the Council observers. "They're changing tactics in real time," marveled a Council military advisor. "Each ship operates independently, but as part of a greater strategy." The Earth fleet took devastating losses. The flagship Intrepid was destroyed with all hands. The Valiant and the Dauntless were crippled but continued fighting. Yet they achieved their objective. The hegemony committed their forces, breaking formation to pursue what they saw as easy victories. "Now," ordered Mei Jin from her command ship, the Council fleet emerged from hiding, catching the hegemony in a three-sided trap. What followed was the largest space battle in galactic history. For 6 hours, the combined human Council force engaged the hegemony armada. When it ended, the hegemony fleet was in retreat. 8 of the 17 human ships had been destroyed. 12 Council vessels were lost. But Lumina was safe, and the hegemony advance was broken. In the days that followed, joint forces pursued the retreating hegemony ships back toward the galactic core. Reports indicated their leadership structure had collapsed, their forces fragmenting into smaller, less threatening groups. 2 weeks after the Battle of Lumina, the Council convened a special session. The chamber, usually ordered and calm, showed signs of the recent conflict, emergency systems still being repaired, representatives from threatened worlds attending via hologram. High Speaker Neri stood before the assembly. "Today we honor the sacrifice of those who defended our civilization, both Council and human. And today we formally recognize Earth's full membership in the Galactic Council, without restrictions or probationary status." The announcement was met with unanimous approval, a rarity in Council proceedings. As the formal ceremony concluded, Neri approached Junho privately. "I understand now what I could not before," she said softly. "Perhaps the cosmos shaped your species through hardship for a purpose we could not foresee. While we built peace, you learned to defend it." "Two paths that needed to converge," Junho suggested. "Indeed." Neri looked thoughtful. "What happens now, Ambassador? Will humans return to Earth, now that the threat is contained?" "Some will," Junho replied. "Others will stay, if welcomed. There's much we can learn from each other." Later that evening, Junho stood alone on the observation deck of Lumina's orbital station. Through a vast viewing window, he could see Earth, a tiny blue dot in the distance, barely visible among the stars. From this perspective, all of humanity's struggles, all their conflicts and competitions, seemed so small. Yet those struggles had forged a species capable of defending others, of fighting for a peace they themselves had rarely known. Perhaps that was humanity's true purpose in the cosmos, not to conquer, not to rule, but to protect. To ensure that the peaceful civilizations could remain peaceful, sheltered by those who understood the price of conflict. As Junho watched his distant homeworld, he felt a profound sense of completion. Humanity had found its place in the stars, not as conquerors or colonizers, but as guardians of a peace larger than themselves. It was a role they had been unknowingly preparing for throughout their turbulent history. Earth would never be as peaceful as the Council worlds. Humans would always carry their competitive nature, their readiness to face threats. But now those qualities served a greater purpose, protecting a galactic civilization that could never have survived without them. In the endless cycle of the cosmos, even humanity's harshest trials had meaning. They had been forged by fire to guard the light. The end,